So, with Rhys Webb coming back to the Ospreys this week and Matt Giteau turning out for Canberra with his local side, got us thinking, what are the best rugby homecomings? What are the best times someone's returned home to a potentially rapturous applause? Rhys Webb didn't get one because there was no crowd, but otherwise, please let us know and we'll read the best ones out next week. So, this week, as I mentioned, Rhys Webb got to play for the Ospreys because they played again and they didn't even lose. The Ospreys didn't lose because the PRO14 finally returned. It means there's only one more for the major leagues yet to come back. The top 14 returning in just a week's time. So, in this PRO14, we got to see the Ospreys draw off the Dragons in what was a bit of a thriller. You know, Ashton Hewitt's going great try, George North's going another before his red card. We got to see elsewhere in Wales, the Scarlets score a really quite impressive try from the very length of the field, as well as the Blues scoring one through Josh Adams. That's a very lovely score. We saw a proper kind of old-fashioned derby between Munster and Leinster, with Leinster eventually pipping it in the end despite a really good late rally from Munster. And then Connacht saw the weekend out with a very, should we say, stylish win over Ulster. And of course the highlight of the Italian derby was this marked the last match of Italy legend 100 plus capper Alessandro Zani. Both teams formed a guard of honour for him to just honour what has been a fantastic career for the Italy back rower. Meanwhile, over in the England, the second round of the Premiership since coming back rolled on. So we had Sale losing again. Steve Diamond needs to work on some ways of motivating his squad, really. To Exeter, who remain top of the table. However, in second are Bristol, who were extremely stylish and extremely fun to watch. Semi Radradra just going completely nuts, just doing things that only Semi Radradra can do. And then we had Wasps managing to pull it out, having been behind at half-time against Worcester. We saw Leicester Tigers being not very good, but Bath be far more good. Josh Matavesi, in particular, really enjoyed the try that he managed to burst through from deep. And then more rugby continued to take place as another round of rugby. Northampton, they lost again. Rugby. Meanwhile, in Australia, the Brumbies continue to storm towards topping that table. Pete Samu finished a really impressive try, and Taniela Tupu did not quite manage that. Speaking of Australia, it's time for another little history lesson, as I want to take you through the time that they lost to Ireland in 2011. Ireland have never got past a World Cup quarter-final. At this point, it's a tragic punchline to a lifetime of raising expectations and casual collapses whenever they see a light blue and white shirt on the horizon. However, Ireland do have some super satisfying wins across the pool stage to their name, topping the charts in 2015, a dramatic win over Wales in 95, and the only time they've ever beaten Argentina at a World Cup in 2003. However, none shines more brightly than the 2011 defeat of Australia, the much fancied team who went on to finish third and were strong contenders heading into the tournament, with peak form Quade Cooper and Wilgenia as the jewels in what was maybe the best backline in the whole competition. This made the fact that Ireland kept Australia tryless for the first time in what was just 2 days shy of being 2 years all the more remarkable. This was led by a pair of properly remarkable performances. Cian Healy, who was immense around the park and helped expose Australia at the scrum, and then the closest thing Lisbon has to a Samoan, Stephen Ferris. Ferris's performance was perhaps most famous for the tackle he put in on Wilgenia, but actually no, he worked incredibly hard in all aspects of play. It was fantastic in all parts of the game, but it was this tackle on Wilgenia, who at the time was probably one of the top 5 rugby players on the planet, leading to a turnover, a total shift in momentum, and that's quite correctly what this game, and indeed Stephen Ferris, will most often be remembered for. This turned the game. It was one of those moments that was genuinely properly impactful. However, there was far more ugly rugby to be championed from Ireland. Ronan O'Gara came on to muddy up the game with some fun kicking, Jonathan Sexton scored the least appealing drop goal you ever see, and Tommy Bowe's intercept was a brilliant try saver from James O'Connor away from being the only try of the game. This win essentially split the 2011 World Cup into a Northern and Southern Hemisphere side of the draw, and gave Ireland an eminently winnable quarter-final against Wales, in which they of course went on to deliver the punchline, which is that they got knocked out in the quarterfinals. One day that joke will get old. Now, last week we asked you for what were the best last-minute winners, best last-minute moments in which one person stood up and was very much the hero. So Crypto says Brian Habana for the Bulls in Super Rugby, that try, all that needs to be said. Grant Schwartz, the Jacques Ferry try of the year that crushed the British and Irish Lions' hearts. Mine is still recovering. It's still in the process of kind of dragging itself back out. Isn't really working. Scott also says Sexton's drop goal in Paris, but O'Gara's drop goal against Southampton, which is similarly from I think 2 billion phases.
100 billion
phases. I think it was something very similar. WU286 is surprisingly unbiased when he mentions Scott Williams coming off the bench to rip the ball of Courtney Lawes, kicking through and scoring against England for the game that won the Six Nations in 2012. I remember that one very well. Another try from 2012 in the Wales game. I try not to remember, and there's been a lot of therapy to take me to it. Herm Boter's shout, which is he's definitely not recommending Curtly Beale's try against Wales. That one tie, it was 2012. I try to forget. I really and just to help things, Jordan then brings up Francois Hollo's turnover in the 2019 semi-final, leading to South Africa kicking the penalty that wins them the game in that semi-final, meaning Wales lose what was their best ever shot at a World Cup. It's okay. Oh, Felix says Elliot Daly against Wales 2017. This is targeted. This is deliberate. You know what you're doing. Come on. Simon says I read that as Jason Statham. Jason Stranger's drop goal for Bristol after 17 phases in 2006 against Gloucester. There's plenty here. Oh, great, thanks. Yeah, Damian Shuley and Camille Lopez against Wales 2017, the famous 100-minute match. Basically, all of these against Wales. A good note to finish on, because it was disallowed, so therefore it means that the episode doesn't actually finish. Guppers says Sam Underhill's disallowed try against the All Blacks at Twickenham in 2018 when he turned Bowden Barrett inside out. Now, I think that's a good note to end on, simply because it means that this doesn't end. So thank you very much. I hope you very much enjoyed that. If you want to see any more of this, you can subscribe, you can follow to the World Rugby channel. It'd be a really fun thing to do. Please send in your homecoming rugby heroes, and we'll see you next week for more of the feed.